Alright, let's begin. So in this video we're going to be talking about the sound manager within the game. So the sound manager is created on startup during the population phase that we talked about in the game master section. So it is created during that single instance. The sound manager, it creates a list, it creates a series of different sound effects. These sound effects have a string so that we can access the sound buffer for the sound, get a Boolean to see whether or not we need to loop the sound, and then a volume for whether or not to how loud we want to play it. And then we have the play and stop sounds as well. So with that, we have the get sound commands. Because we are using a command pattern, we have all of the sounds created here, and then anyone that wishes to use a sound can request it. So for instance, the blaster, it gets the sound manager and requests access to the fire sound as well as the blaster dead sound. And then over at the flea, it requests the sound for the flea as well as the critter dead sound effects. So it passes out these commands to the critters so that they can tell the sound manager when to start or stop them. So if I were to quickly go here, so when we start gameplay, so when we start two-player mode, we are muting everything. So to mute, we clear those sounds. So we process all the start sounds until none are left. And then we start playing what is on the screen. So if I hit the enter key to fire, we see we got a cue from firing the bullet. So like so. The stop is used for looping sounds. So because the spider just left the screen, it is telling the sound manager that it needs to stop playing that sound. And then when a spider comes back onto the screen, it will tell the sound manager to start playing that sound again. These, right there. I also hit space to enter the fire, so we saw that it also created the fire sound. If I do that again, creates that. The spider just left the scene, so now it is stopping that. If I were to fire again, and it hits something, we see that now we have a Q sound for the critter dead sound effect. So when I press F5, again, you can hear that, and then a spider spawns, so it started the spider loop as well. If I attack the spider, it will start that, the critter dead sound. Oh, it hit the centipede, my mistake. And then the spider left the scene. Where is the spider going to spawn next? So now we fire a bullet, hit the spider, it stops the looping sound, and then plays the critter dead sound. If I were to quickly so the spider is dead again. If I quickly clear out the screen of centipede heads, we can see that it will call the stop on the centipede head. This is because all the centipedes have been cleared from the game, so there are no heads left to play that looping sound. So we'll call the centipede spawner calls the stop send stop sound command, and it tells it to stop playing the centipede looping sound. And we start the next wave, so now it's playing more looping sounds. The flea just went through, it made it to the bottom of the screen, so it stopped and starts again, like so. Like so, it does that until it keeps looping. If I were to kill it early, then it starts the sound over until it's satisfied. When I press the mute key, it is going to change where the start and stop is from. So if I go over back to here, we have a sound manager. We have the change state for muting and unmuting. So this will go into the strategy system. So the strategy system has two forms. It has the mute sounds and play sounds. These will determine where the play and stop goes. So if I go to mute, you can see that these are both part of sound commands, which have a play and stop process. If I go back, so mute has empty functions here. So whenever a sound is told to be played or told to be stopped, nothing will happen because these are empty functions. As for the opposite for the audible, audible has play sound effect and stop sound effect, and this is where the sounds are played and stopped. So whenever we press the M key, it switches to this state where it doesn't do anything with the inputs. This is done so that we don't have to add extra if statements to check whether or not we need to play the sounds. Instead, we just direct them to somewhere where the sound will never be played. So now the sounds are muted. If I were to get hit, swapping players does not change the sound manager at all. So as you can see, the game is still muted even though we swapped players. And to memory check past, to really quick highlight this in the level 1 controller, this is where we mute our sounds. So by pressing the M key, we change the state of the sound manager. If the sound manager is currently muted, then we unmute it. If the sound manager is unmuted, we mute it. And that is, oh, not it yet. So whenever we mute the game, we have to tell these, whenever we mute, we go to the spawners. Because the spawners have looping sounds, we tell it when to, we have the game master tell the spawners when to send this command. So whenever we mute the game, which should be sound manager here, whenever we mute, we tell the game manager to silence the spawners. So by silencing the spawners, it will mute every single one of its spawners. So in the mute, it sends the stop sound command. And that makes it so that when we go to the muting process, any sound that was looping will be immediately stopped. And it won't matter if they try and start the sound again, because starting the sound in the mute mode will just lead it to absolutely nothing. Because the sound mute has no play functionality. And that's it.